Good morning. The House Appropriations Committee will come to order. Will the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Boland.
Here.
Representatives Maddock. Here. Green. Jenkins-Arno. Kelly. Markkinen. Mueller. Here. Slaw. Van Workum. Beeson. Borton. Roth. Cavett. Here. DeSena. Kuhn. Steele. Here. Robinson. Here. O'Neill. Rogers. Here. Steckloff. Glanville. Edwards. Farhat. Here. Martis. McKinney. Here. Morgan. Price. Here. Snyder. Here. Long John. Here. Madam Chair, you have 23 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Rep. Farhat makes a motion to adopt the minutes from the November 5th meeting. There being no objection, the minutes are approved. Today we will hear testimony on Senate Bill 370, sponsored by Senator Singh, which is a bill to create the Tricare Premium Reimbursement Program. It is part of a three-bill package and is a budget implementation bill that includes Senate Bill 540, 542, and House Bill 4962. I want to remind members that last week that we did hear testimony on 540 and 542, and the House has already passed House Bill 4962. With that, I will invite Chris Young up to testify on behalf of Senator Singh and tell us about Senate Bill 370.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee for consideration of Senate Bill 370. It's an honor to be here on behalf of Sam Singh this morning to talk about providing health care for Michigan National Guard members. I'd like to give a special thanks first off to Representative Snyder for his leadership on this issue. We partnered with him last session, and we wouldn't be at this point in the process without his guidance. And also, just a little off script, he noted that it was his idea first. He reminded me earlier, I couldn't fully remember exactly where it came from. But what we were looking at was Maryland was the first state in the country to do this. Their program, Healthcare for Heroes, has been wildly successful. And what we found that our National Guard members are frequently employed in sectors that don't offer employer-sponsored health insurance. And many of our Guardsmen and women work as independent contractors or in the service sector, which by nature is often seasonal employment. And these sectors are perfect complements to meet the commitments of serving in the Guard, but they may not be the best for making sure that our troops are mission ready with health insurance. And so providing health and dental insurance for those members helps address three critical issues facing the department: recruitment, retention, and troop readiness. And what we heard from DMVA officials is that troops have been called to active duty, but are often unable to engage in service until after a health ailment has been addressed. Many Guard members naturally will wait until they're called to active duty to address nagging health issues, because once on active duty, then they are provided health care. So by passing this legislation to benefit our servicemen and women, we'll be ensuring that when duty calls, they'll be ready and able to serve. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Representative Farhat.
Thank you, Chair. And as with all things and all good ideas, they start with Will Snyder. So thank you, Representative Snyder. But it always takes the execution of Senator Singh to get them done. So, you know, I'm sorry, Will. But I do want to take a moment here to really uplift how important this is and thank the fact that this committee is taking up legislation around ensuring our National Guard members and those that are serving and signing up to serve are getting, you know, we're keeping our promise to them, making sure they have the health care and access to resources and benefits that we ought to be giving them as a state. And so I want to thank you guys for bringing this forward today. And as always, I look forward to opportunities for us to continue collaborating together. So maybe after this, we'll talk to Will, see what other ideas he has. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, thank you for that. And yes, I think that we know we've heard how important these bills are, and we saw them through the budget process. And Rep. Snyder, thank you. It doesn't always matter who gets credit. It's good policy, and we're glad to partner on this. And so hearing Seeing no questions, are there any cards? Hearing none. All right, Rep. Snyder makes the motion to report Senate Bill 370. Clerk, please call the roll.
On the motion to report Senate Bill 370, Chair Bolin.
Yes.
Representatives Maddock.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Jenkins Arno. Kelly. Markinen. Mueller. Slaw. Van Workum. Beeson. Borton. Roth. Cavett.
Yes.
DeSena. Kuhn. Steele. Robinson. O'Neill. Rogers. Steckloff. Glanville. Edwards. Farhat.
Yes.
Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Morgan. Price. Snyder. Long John. Madam Chair, you have 23 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The motion prevails.
Senate Bill 370 is reported. Feels good to have a unanimous vote. And with that, Rep. Mueller makes a motion to report Senate Bill 540 as an H2 substitute. Please call the roll, Clerk.
On the motion to report, Chair Bolin.
Yes.
Representatives Maddock.
Yes.
Green. Jenkins Arno. Kelly. Markinen. Mueller. Slaw. Van Workum. Beeson. Borton. Roth. Cavett.
Yes.
DeSena. Kuhn. Steele. Robinson. Sorry, Steele, did you say? Yes, okay. Robinson. O'Neill. Rogers. Steckloff. Glanville. Edwards. Farhat.
Yes.
Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Morgan. Price. Snyder. Long John. Madam Chair, you have 23 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The motion prevails.
Senate Bill 540 as an H2 substitute is reported. Moving on, Rep. McKinney makes a motion, report Senate Bill 542 as an H2 substitute. Clerk, please take the roll.
On the motion to report, Chair Bolin.
Yes.
Representatives Maddock.
Yes.
Green. Jenkins Arno. Kelly. Markinen. Mueller. Slaw. Van Workum. Beeson. Borton. Roth. Cavett. DeSena. Kuhn. Steele. Robinson. O'Neill. Rogers. Steckloff. Glanville. Edwards. Farhat.
Yes.
Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Morgan. Price. Snyder. Long John. Madam Chair, you have 23 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The motion prevails.
Senate Bill 542 as an H2 substitute is reported. All right, we will now move on to legislative transfer 2025-8. With that, I'll ask House Fiscal to come forward.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I am Robin Risco with the House Fiscal Agency, here to give you a brief overview of the transfers requested by the State Budget Office in Legislative Transfer Request 2025-8, dated October 31st. First, let me start off by saying that I know that this current committee has not addressed transfer requests before, so I thought I would start with a brief explanation of legislative transfers and the transfer process in general. A transfer is an accounting adjustment that is made to increase or decrease expenditure authority for line items within department budgets. Transfers can be used to move spending authority from one line item to another to account for a deficit in a line item or to expand or reduce programs. Transfers cannot be used to create new line items, new programs, or new fund sources. Typically what happens is the State Budget Office initiates and submits letters requesting the approval of transfers. These letters are submitted to the House and Senate Appropriation Committees. Though it is typical for the Budget Office to initiate transfers, you should know too that you members of the Appropriation Committees can initiate transfers as well as amend transfers that are submitted by the Budget Office. Under the Management and Budget Act, a majority of the members of the House and Senate Appropriations Committees must approve proposed legislative transfers. The transfers that are approved by the committees must be identical in terms of line item titles, funding sources, and dollar amounts in order to go into effect. If either Appropriations Committee withholds approval, transfers do not occur. There are two basic types of transfers that have different effects on levels of appropriations and overall state budget totals. The first type is a standard legislative transfer. This type of transfer shifts existing spending authorization between line items in a particular budget area with no net change in total appropriations. Standard transfers are proposed primarily when expenditures are higher than originally anticipated in one line item and then lower than anticipated in another line item. The second type is a contingency authorization transfer. This type of transfer results in an increase to total line item appropriations in a budget area when contingency spending authorization from boilerplate in the Budget Act is moved to a specific line item. Contingency authorization allows for the expenditure of additional revenue that becomes available during the budget year from a federal, local, private, or state-restricted source. One example of this would be federal grant funding that is awarded to a state department after the budget is enacted. When the budget was developed, it was not known that this federal grant funding would be available to the state, so authorization is not included in that budget to receive it or expend it. An approved contingency transfer would allow receiving and expending the federal grant funding. Another example is private donations. When the budget is developed, there's no way anyone can anticipate the donation of funds to the state from a private source. Without this contingency authorization transfer mechanism, this type of budget adjustment would need to be made through a supplemental appropriations bill. Typically, several packages of transfers are reviewed and approved by the appropriations committees during a budget year. The State Budget Office submitted 3 other transfer packages prior to submitting the package that you have before you. Request letters 2025-4, 2025-6, and 2025-7 were submitted in April, June, and September respectively, but the appropriations committees did not act on any of those packages. So the package before you is rather a large transfer package because it was submitted and designed to replace the 3 pending requests that were not addressed by the committees. So moving on to that transfer package, as shown in the table on the page after the cover memo, standard transfers in this package total $585.5 million. These standard transfers consist largely of year-end and book closing transfers that, if approved, would ensure that the appropriation amounts are aligned with final expenditures at the close of the budget year. Contingency authorization transfers in this package total $73.7 million, which represents an increase to the FY25 budget of 0.09%. Madam Chair, that concludes my overview. There are House Fiscal Agency analysts here to answer budget-specific, department-specific questions that any of the members might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that thorough explanation. And I will say, I just want to give a little bit of background. If we do look back over the year, we've not done many transfers, even while they have requests. This is number 8. Some of them were covered in the supplemental that was adopted with the state budget for the 26 year. But after reviewing this and based on the feedback from the budget office and conversations, you know, our review and changes in this legislative transfer are consistent with our approach to the budget. And in looking at whether or not it was new spending or was a matter of resolve or something that is better appropriated in a supplemental. Most of these are technical transfers, as Robin mentioned, and they implement items for the budget, namely authorizing the use of federal funds, particularly to address the shortfall in the Medicaid health plans. So I just want to give that background on what our approach was and getting our questions and submitting this before you. And with that, we will take questions. Rep. Jenkins-Arno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question about the corrections transfer on page 5. I'm just curious if the money that is being budgeted for prisoner transport staff and vehicles Would any of that go to townships to help with the problem that they're having in covering the cost of transporting prisoners?
No, Representative. The money is strictly for Department of Corrections transports. Now, if they're picking future prisoners up from jails, then yes, that would be part of this. But just to give it to the counties to transport jail inmates only, no, I don't
Okay,
believe so.
so that doesn't address that problem, so I'm hoping that we can address that issue going forward. Thank you.
Excellent question, Rep. And yes, that continues to be our radar, but this is strictly adhering to what is needed to shore up for 25 with the department. Rep. Farhat.
Yes, I will ask my question. Thank you, Chair. So a quick question would be, and I'm back in my chair now. A quick question is that I know we received a formal request from EOG, the governor's team, and SBO, around a series of legislative transfers they had requested. Is there, I know without going into depth or line by line, are there a few, or is there a basis, maybe Chair, I know we talked about this a little bit, for how these transfers were selected versus what the state budget office had asked? Is there just a methodology there?
Yes, I would be happy to answer that. And I will tell you that over the years, my understanding is that the contingencies have been used as a way to not adjust necessarily a line item, and that they weren't really, maybe haven't followed their original intent. And so the review did entail what the original intent is, did look at what was an existing program or expanding something versus a new spend. And so what was left out primarily is what were new spends. The exception is the Michigan State Police. There were a number of requests in the original transfer. When asked questions last week, they basically withdrew all of their requests for transfers except for one, and that had to do with one particular line item. So it is in line with if it was not a new, and those it's not that they wouldn't be under consideration, but they'd be more appropriate under a supplemental.
Thank you.
Rep. Van Workum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just trying to quickly read over this. There is several things to, I think, unpack here. If I may ask, I guess, a couple questions. One is the line items on the psychiatric hospitals. There's several changes here. There was a little blurb here on just some consolidation and some others, but just curious how this money is being freed up, from where, and where it's being placed.
Kevin Korsher with House Fiscal. So looking at pages 13 and 14, I believe are the transfer requests you're asking about, that would transfer authorization from Kalamazoo Psychiatric Hospital and the Ruther Psychiatric Hospital into Caro and the Forensic Center. Both Caro and the Forensic Center appear to be at capacity. They have higher staffing costs and overtime levels there. And your question on the consolidation is the way that Ruther is authorized took the full authorization from Hawthorne and the full authorization from Ruther, and then moved all that authorization into Ruther. But the number of beds did not correspond with the change of authorization. So right now, the state doesn't have the beds at Hawthorne as that new facility is being constructed. So that has allowed spending to be below authorized. Kalamazoo, there was also a comment that they're cycling units off as they renovate that facility. So as they renovate, you then don't have the operating cost for that wing or unit that's being renovated.
Okay. If I may. Looking at the larger transfer here as it relates to Medicaid. Now, we have heard over the past several months of the gap that we have in reimbursing health plans. Is this an attempt to address that? There's a number that's been thrown out of what is needed. What percentage of this does that cover?
Ken Dell, House Fiscal. I'm not sure as to the percentage of what it would cover, but this, according to the State Budget Office, this transfer along with what was included in the enacted budget supplemental would cover going forward that shortfall in health plans.
Okay.
Rep. Van Workum, I just want to add, that is consistent. We asked this question, it was a very big concern, and it has been a concern over the last several months, and the Budget Office has indicated, and in our conversations with fiscal, that this will cover that, in addition to, this was a conversation during the budget process.
All right. Just going into, I guess, the blurbs you have here on page 22, talking about the pharmaceutical services in the final quarter, cash collections and rebate accruals. Is there a question, I guess, from how much we are receiving in those rebate accruals, that we're not getting accurate numbers? Or what is this addressing?
Correct, yes. So when we do the consensus estimates, a lot of times there'll be cost accruals, and then later on they'll be reversed, like once the actual costs and expenditures come in. So they account for them, but then once the actual revenues come in, for example, from the rebates, then they'll know how much is actually lined up and how much they would really need. So they'll accrue it and then they'll reverse it. And that's what we have access to within the actual counting system, because all this stuff happens at the micro level, and as it gets tallied up to the state, we get a better picture of what's going on. So there's always uncertainty in there. This uncertainty in particular is related to the quarter four, the last quarter of the fiscal year. So as books are closing and cash is still coming in, how much of those accruals are going to get reversed and how much are going to be accounted for the next fiscal year.
But
So-
that's information that you guys have access, or we're relying on the State Budget Office for that information?
So the State Budget Office gets that as they get that information, they put that into the state accounting system. So it's information they get from the bottom down. So as these claims are made and as the rebates go out and as they get processed and brought up from the health plans and from the fee-for-service program up into the state, into the budget office, that gets put into the accounting system. So it's like as the picture develops for the budget office, we get that information as they do too.
And then I just have a general process, I guess, question about this and what we're receiving today. So as we begin the next phase of the budget, we just finished the last one, we've got significant changes here, particularly the Medicaid side and psychiatric hospitals and things like that. The document you're going to give us as we prepare to make the decisions for the next budget, is it going to reflect this with these numbers, or is it going to have what is the current budget? Because there are significant changes here, and a lot of these changes we were being discussed as we were making the new budget. If we had known that there was this much here as potential to move from different pots, I think a lot of those budget decisions would have been different. So I guess moving forward, is this going to be incorporated in a document that we will see as we make the next budget decisions?
So I guess I'll take a stance at that. So yes, if you will recall this past year, that our approach was quite a bit different. We also know we had 2 actuarials on the Medicaid on the health plan side of things, which was different. Now that seems to be our standard going forward. And some of these requests are, when asked of the budget offices, you know, they would be in the supplemental, why weren't they included? So that it would have given us a better base, it just, they got caught up in a shuffle. So I think your point is duly noted, and I do think we need to make very, very sure that we're shoring up and know exactly what base is and how we're projecting. And I also think the information is extremely important. While it may be with the department, I do think that the appropriators have the need, and it's important that all that rebate information is timely shared with the Appropriations Committee, in particular the subcommittees that are working with that. So if you'd like to add anything.
I guess I'd just add one other thing is when we go through transfer reviews, we always try to look at what would be an ongoing thing and what would be a one-time thing. And so if we go through this and it does look like to be a structural change, we would absolutely bring that to your consideration. But there's some of these are just one-time things, which you wouldn't build into 26, 27.
Thank you. Representative Steele.
Thank you. I appreciate the information this morning. So my question is, on every one of them, it talks about funding sources, but, and maybe I haven't looked at it close enough. Does it say specifically the funding source in each one of those, or just some of them? Like where the funding is, I know, like you said, federal grants, but if you don't have, there's two types, a contingency and a standard. So the contingency is like a federal grant, but a standard, did the standards all specify exactly where the funding source, it takes one from the other?
Yes, all fund sources are listed.
Okay.
And just to, when you said all contingencies are federal, that's not necessarily true. There are state restricted, I know there's a local one for DHS, there's a private one for education, so your contingencies can be from any one of those federal, local, private, or state restricted fund sources. But all of them should be listed for each transfer, where it's coming from and where it's going to.
And this is kind of a loaded question, but any of them are full-time employees transfer funding source from those line items?
Not that I'm aware of. I can speak for corrections. There's nothing FTE. There is, I take that back. In corrections, there's one. It's FTE related in the sense that the Detroit Detention Center was closed, and so employees that worked at there were Department of Correction employees paid for by the city of Detroit. That detention center closed. Those employees went to, on this transfer, where does it say? I believe it was Macomb. Yeah, Macomb and Woodland. And so that's FTE related, but it's not the transfer of, the money that was for those FTEs at Detroit Detention Center went over to those two facilities with the people.
Not into a different pot, like?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. I echo Chair Van Workum's question about the psychiatric beds, and I think that there's a number of us in this chamber that have been voicing concerns about lack of access. So I understand that we're trying not to put new money in this piece, but again, happy to continue the conversation moving forward into next year. My question is specifically around, could you explain again, I know you had some pieces for Representative Van Workum, but can you talk about where this money is actually going for, like what bucket this is addressing for the psychiatric hospital, sorry.
So this transfer would align authorization with spends. So this would be an example where the Forensic Center and CARO cost more to operate than what we authorized them for. And then on the opposite side, what it costs to operate Kalamazoo and Ruther costs less than it was authorized. It would be primarily personnel costs. They commented that it's staffing levels and overtime is the primary driver. I'm sure there's some contractual elements to it. But I think it was primarily just based on the beds they had and how much those beds cost and whether there was, I guess when you close a unit, you then don't pay to operate it.
Thank you. I am familiar with Kalamazoo taking beds offline for reconstruction and renovations. I would just uplift, moving forward, I think this body needs to have a conversation about wages and recruitment across the board. Our psychiatric hospitals are struggling to hire psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers. So I think next, as we move into next year's discussion, that needs to be a part of it. Thank you, Chair.
Rep. Rogers, I absolutely agree with you. I have a very big concern that when we have a need for beds and access, and seems to be a decrease, it's very problematic. And I do welcome the conversation. I have a lot of concerns. We seem to be shoring up and advancing some of the lower tier health professionals because of a shortage, but we are not addressing where the real need is, and that's at this level. So I welcome that, and also we will be digging into this a little bit more as a committee. So thank you very much for that. Rep. O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just want to echo what's already been spoken about in terms of transparency. I agree with Representative Van Workum in terms of, access to information, transparency, and communicating with our majority vice chairs at minimum, just to have those conversations. My concern is specifically corrections. That's one of my hearts with my colleague, and so just having those, even just having the majority chair speaking as a voice for us would be helpful as we deliberate on these changes in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rep. McKinney.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just wanted a quick question because there's some transfers going on, but what comes to mind is what's happening at the Women's Huron Valley facility. I'm sure you guys have been noticing or heard in the news. We got some groups up here today with the black mold and the mold issue in that facility in particular. And so, my question is, why wasn't that considered in terms of a legislative transfer to, rectify a lot of those issues, because there's a lot of health problems in that facility that are impacting not only our inmates, but impacting the workers as well. So can anybody address that concern for me? I know, Chairwoman, we talked about it. I know me and Rep. O'Neill went to the facility, was it maybe a couple months ago, to have those dialogues with the department. But I think if we're going to do these transfers, we should literally figure out how to address and solve a lot of these issues.
Duly noted, Representative. I do think that's a conversation, and that is under the administrative control and the governor, and I would encourage you to work with us in conversation on that. And this is a request. We reviewed the transfers that were presented to us by the State Budget Office, which reports to the admin.
Thank you.
Representative Longjohn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like Chair Van Workum, I'm looking at page 22 here and was wondering if HFA could kind of provide a clarification on the top row there. It's like almost 400 million in, if I'm reading this correctly, overspend in the pharmaceutical services portion. When we had a briefing maybe 6 months ago about the supplemental, there was 240 million or so that was attributable to increase in GLP-1 prescriptions. Could you help us understand how we got to 400 million-ish, 380 or so million-ish off? It looks like a 40% or something miscalculation or lack of the ability to forecast correctly.
First, on the pharmaceutical services, when we run data pulls, we only see the data that's entered into the system at the time. And so when we look at that one and it shows a larger deficit than what they're asking to transfer into, that we then follow up. And I think in this example, the rebate savings has not been booked into that line just yet for fourth quarter. So they're saying that they will, when they book the rebate savings, they're going to be short $38 million gross in that line. So that is the primary reason why we put the data when we do this data run. So it would, this is saying that, I mean, to Ken's point, we do have to rely on the data we see, and as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, the departments would have much more information on what they're going to book as an accrual. And so this would be an example where they have not booked the pharmacy savings just yet. But when they do, that line is going to be short $38 million.
And no ability to, at this point, with only early data in, to identify whether it's certain classes of drugs or et cetera that are not being, that the rebates aren't covering.
That's correct. I would note that rebates is kind of timing is harder to trend. It really depends on when the manufacturer submits them. Sometimes they'll submit them monthly, sometimes they do it 6 months. So it is a little harder to trend rebate savings out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rep. Mueller.
Yes, really quick, could you just explain the transfer for the state police? Because sometimes things look pretty straightforward, but with my dealings with the department, I've had some issues getting truthful information from them in a timely manner. So it's $155,000, and they're coming for a legislative transfer. They just settled a $9.5 million lawsuit and have not obtained where they got that money from.
Sure. Good morning, Aaron Meek, House Fiscal. Thanks, Rep. Mueller. I can't speak to the settlement, obviously, but as to the contents of the transfer, it's really, the revenue is just from the sale of older fleet vehicles that are maybe outdated, or the department has decided to not update or re-outfit. And these additional revenues came in towards the end of fiscal '25, and the department has just requested a little bit of a bump from the original $100,000 mark. That's about all the information that we have right now. I'm happy to follow up, though, if that doesn't answer your question.
Yeah, because the last time I heard, I thought there was like 100 vehicles sitting over there that haven't been outfitted yet, and they need more money, but they have all the vehicles sitting there that we're paying for already.
Well, for those, though, it's the updating costs, right? Those are waiting to be updated, right? I think they're still willing to update or able to update those vehicles. They're just waiting to do that. As for these are for the sale of vehicles that they're not going to update anymore. That I think are probably not even, maybe they're in that lot, but they're not going to probably proceed with any further updates on those.
Okay.
Thank you. Representative Beeson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions are more for the natural resource. The transfer of fund money, it looks like it's coming from the federal grant funding, and it's going, it looked like from, I want to say it looked like National Recreational Trails funding, and you're transferring it to like fish and boating, and I just was wondering if that's general practice with this.
Hello, Austin Scott from the House Fiscal Agency. The natural resources transfers are pages 38, 39, and 40. 38 and 39 specifically are transferring from the National Recreational Trails line on both page 38 and 39 into marketing and outreach on page 38 and recreational boating on page 39. The transfers for fisheries and wildlife are coming from the Game and Fish Protection account. So that is not federal funding, but rather proceeds from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses would be supporting fisheries resource management and wildlife management. So those are going from within the grant section into the fisheries and wildlife sections. The previous two from National Recreational Trails, those are supporting federal grant programs, federal funding supporting grant programs. In the case of page 38, the Pittman-Robertson Basic Hunter Education Grant, which is administered through the marketing and outreach line. And in the case of page 39, this is federal funding that supports the sport fish, restoration operations, and maintenance of motorboat access facilities grant, and that's administered within Parks and Recreation to the recreational boating line.
So that's normal then. I get the fishing with the fishing license, but the recreational grant will be for, on that page, what, 30? The one that for the communication and customer service, basically marketing and outreach, that's what they use the fund money from the National Recreational Trail Funds? Is that typical?
The National Recreational Trail Funds are not supporting wildlife and fisheries.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, no other questions? All right, there being no further questions, Rep. Maddock votes to approve legislative transfer 2025-8 as presented. Clerk, please call the roll.
On the motion to approve, Chair Boland?
Yes.
Representatives Maddock? Green? Jenkins Arnold? Kelly? Markinen? Mueller? Slaw? Van Workum? Beeson? Horton? Roth? Cavett? DeSena? Kuhn? Steele? Robinson? O'Neill? Rogers? Stiploff? Glanville? Sorry, Edwards? Farhat? Martis? McKinney? Morgan? Price? Snyder? Long John? Madam Chair, you have 15 yeas, 0 nay, 9 pass. The motion prevails.
Legislative transfer request 2025-8 as amended is, as presented, is approved. Without objection, absent members will be excused from today's meeting, and seeing no. Rep. Mueller moves to excuse absent members. Without objection, the absent members are excused from today's meeting. Seeing no further questions or business to come before the House Appropriations Committee, we are adjourned.